Papa Shane, how we doing?
We're finally back for another show after freaking 2 months. Seems like it.
I don't. Feels like it's been forever, man.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of other stuff happen. Between now and the last time we had a show, I became a father. For those of you watching, Tim knows that. Tim's more excited about it than I am. So yeah, it's been busy. We had a whole bunch of personal stuff come up. Me and my girlfriend gave birth to a daughter on the 17th of April, so I've been busy with that, and finally have a spare hour to do a hockey show. We got lots to talk about, don't we?
Oh yeah, we do.
So much. We haven't did a show in over a month.
Yeah, it's been at least a month, and we only have 5 or 6 games left in the season. So
yeah, it's
Shane.
You're definitely seeing that separation in the standings for sure right now. Okay, Tim, we're gonna start this episode with the whole Capitals Rangers saga going on right now.
All right.
Because I mean I know your thoughts on it, but I want to hear your opinion on it in person. So, for those of you that are kind of out of the loop, if you haven't been watching, Capitals and Rangers played on, I believe it was Monday, May 3rd, and Tom Wilson went ballistic in front of the net, in front of the Rangers net. Sorry, something happened where he was punching one player in the back of the head, right, and then Panarin tried to get in on it, and he grabbed Panarin without his helmet and body slammed him to the ground. And people were calling. There was all sorts of outcry for Tom Wilson to get suspended because of his history. He's a repeat offender, everything going on there. And he only got fined $5,000. He got a 10-minute misconduct on the play, fined $5,000. So he made more money sitting in the penalty box for 10 minutes than he got fined.
Yeah.
Which completely. I think it was suspendable for sure. Given his history, this guy's gonna kill someone.
With his history, absolutely, that's suspendable. It was suspendable before he even touched Panarin. Like, Buchnevich was trying to score a goal, and Wilson was just cross-checking him in the back of the neck into the ice. That's when Panarin stepped in. And then he ripped off Panarin's helmet and body slammed his head into the ice. And I was like, what the fuck? The last time I saw something like that was when Bertuzzi jumped on that guy's back and drove his head into the ice.
Yeah, that was back in, 2004 or something?
Yeah, and people were calling for, like, Bertuzzi to be murdered. And all of a sudden, $5,000 fine, no big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, but the series of events coming on after that whole thing. The Capitals and Rangers played again last night. Rangers called up an AHL tough guy. There was an NHL record 6 fights in the first 5 minutes of that game. Everyone saw that coming. The Rangers, before that game, were calling. They publicly went out. They criticized George Peros, head of Department of Player Safety. They called for him to be fired. The Rangers then turned around and fired their president of hockey operations and their general manager, Jeff Gorton. In last night's game between against the Capitals, rather, Buchnevich cross-checked. Who was it? Jacob Vrana in the face? No, Anthony Mantha. Anthony Mantha. He cross-checked Anthony Mantha in the face. Got suspended 1 game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at it, Buchnevich gets suspended a game for cross-checking Anthony Mantha in the face, which, I mean, okay, I understand that. But then Tom Wilson gets fined $5,000?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that guy does not have the same repeat offender history as Wilson does.
Well, exactly. Like, the whole thing. And then, not only that, but did you see now the Rangers organization got fined $250,000 today by the NHL for publicly criticizing George Peros? Like, this is just, it goes on and on and on.
If you total up Wilson's suspensions, he's been suspended like over 30 games and has been fined like $1.3 million.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you say, like, I don't want to kick someone out of the league because it sucks, because he is a good hockey player. Like, he has the skill to be a good hockey player. He's just such a fucking cheap shot that it's like at some point enough is enough. Like,
the way I look at it, Artemi Panarin is arguably the Rangers' best player, and he was body slammed to the ice, the rock solid hard ice, with no helmet on by Tom Wilson. I mean, he's lucky that like he was just a headshot. Like all it would take was for his head to hit the ice,
Yeah.
knocked out cold. He's concussed, brain injury, and that ends his career. Right? Like Tom Wilson was that close to ending Artemi Panarin's career.
And people say like, "Oh, Panarin jumped on Wilson's back. What was Wilson supposed to do?" Well,
Yeah.
like probably just shove him to the side, considering the fact that Wilson is 50 pounds heavier than him.
Yeah, and
Like,
I mean, the Rangers, in my mind, had every right to criticize the people they did and to go off like they did. I would have done the same thing if I was a part of the Rangers or even a Rangers fan for that matter. But I mean, like the NHL, like we're hearing this time and time again with the Department of Player Safety. They are so inconsistent on
yeah,
what they call a suspendable play. Like for instance, I don't know if you were watching the Pittsburgh Philadelphia game the other
yeah,
day. Sidney
Dawson.
Crosby pretty much did the exact same thing to Travis Konechny that Tom Wilson did to Artemi Panarin. Crosby went
Yeah.
and took Konechny and body slammed him to the ice, and nothing. No one even bats an eye. Now, is this because this is Sidney Crosby?
Like, who? Like at
Like,
that point, are we just picking favorites? Like, are we just
well,
gonna
well, I mean,
favor
and
superstars or what?
if you're gonna find Tom Wilson $5,000 for doing that to Panarin, and then Crosby gets off and does nothing, like I'll admit that I'm not a Penguins fan, and I'm not keen on Sidney Crosby. I never really liked him, but if you're gonna fine Tom Wilson $5,000 for that and not give Sidney Crosby anything for doing almost the exact same thing, like this is the inconsistency that's making teams like the Rangers call out the Department of Player
Yeah.
Safety.
And the whole role of the Department of Player Safety is to minimize like the fight and injuries from players and stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
and keep the players safe.
if you're gonna be this inconsistent, then all of a sudden you're gonna have all the fighting back, all the brawling back, like, and you're gonna be right back to square one where you want to eliminate that from the game, which
And
I don't necessarily agree with. I think fighting like keeps the game like honorable and like there's accountability in the game, but I don't think we need to have what happened last night happen every single game.
yeah. Yeah, and Martin says here, when I saw the Rangers and Capitals fight at the start of the game, I loved it. Wilson should have got suspended for this. Also, I'm not sure what's worse, getting fined for speaking your mind or having your team president and general manager fired the day after the Rangers made that statement. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of off. Like, I mean, especially with Buchnevich getting suspended a game for the cross check. Like, the way I look at it is the Department of Player Safety made this whole situation worse by not suspending
Yeah.
Tom Wilson. Like,
Yeah.
okay, if you suspend Tom Wilson even 3 games, fine. He gets suspended. Rangers don't go out and publicly criticize them. They don't get fined $250,000 by the NHL. They don't fire their general manager, team president. They don't go out and start 6 fights in the first 5 minutes of the game. You know, like the Department of Player Safety not doing the right thing by suspending Tom Wilson made this whole situation worse. And like you said, the whole point of that Department of Player Safety is to minimize the fighting, keep players in hockey safe, and like for them to not do anything about it. Of course, there are going to be 6 fights in the first 5 minutes of the next game.
Like
You
you
know what
just
I mean?
knew it. Everyone in the hockey world knew, even maybe in the sports world knew if they read anything in the news, that the first 5 minutes of that game was just going to be, all right, whoever you're lined up against, you're going to fight. Like,
Yeah. Like there was 2 fights right after the opening faceoff?
3.
3.
All
Yeah.
both wingers and the center just dropped the gloves right off the bat.
Yeah. Like,
And then the second Wilson skated on the ice, it took him 5 seconds before Smith grabbed him and started pounding him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, now Tom Wilson left the game yesterday with an upper body injury.
Yeah.
Do you think, what's the irony in that? Like, do you think he was actually injured, or do you think he was just saying "fuck this"? Like, I don't want to fight anymore.
I don't think he was saying "fuck this." I don't want to fight anymore, because I do believe that like he is tough. Like he will. I don't know. Like to me, he's beating the shit out of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a chance that maybe the refs went to the coach and was like, send him to the locker room because if he keeps going on the ice, we're just going to be fighting the entire game.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, I think so. Like I wasn't watching the game yesterday. I was out doing stuff and I was working late, but I saw on my phone a notification that Capitals Tom Wilson left the game early with an upper body injury, and I was like, upper body injury, my ass.
It was either,
Like,
I feel like it was either the ref told the coach, like, oh, like, send him to the locker room, or his fucking fists were just demolished from fighting so much the past couple of games.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the next game that the Capitals play, which is not against the Rangers, Tom Wilson suits up.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. So, like the whole situation was, I mean, I think the Department of Player Safety could have handled it a lot better than they did. I think they should have handled it a lot better than they did. I do think George Peros made a huge mistake in that ruling, and I don't blame the Rangers for calling him out. But
Yeah.
I mean, the NHL fining the Rangers $250,000 for that, like, I think that's a little extreme. Like,
Yeah.
players and organizations, especially in the NHL, have a right to speak their mind. Like, you see coaches all the time going on, especially in the playoffs, in post-game press conferences, they go out and they just criticize the refs and they criticize their players for playing bad, and they don't get fined anything.
Like that
Every
seems
time
a
teams or
little,
players go and complain about the refs, they don't get fined anything.
to me, that seems a little bit like of a dictatorship. Like, oh, you're gonna speak out against us, well, we'll fine you $250,000.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Batman.
Yeah, and then Martin says upper body injury is 100% code for the refs telling Washington to take out Tom Wilson so they don't have to deal with any more fights. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a general consensus. Tom Wilson's going to be suiting up next game for sure. I'm willing to put money on it. And do the Rangers in Washington play anymore? I don't think they do. But lucky Boston Bruins get New York Rangers next. So you get a nice fiery team that's all fired up. So have fun with them.
Yeah, and I believe the Rangers have lost 4 games in a row too. So Boston might be that lucky team where they snap their losing streak on them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that is the whole Tom Wilson New York Rangers trilogy that was going on over the past week. So we're gonna start breaking down the divisions now. There's a lot of teams that have clinched the East Division. Mass Mutual East Division has their 4 teams. All 4 teams in the East Division, or the top 4 teams, have already clinched. So you already know it's going to be Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston, Islanders in the playoffs. The only thing left to be determined is who gets that home ice advantage and who, or like the placing, I guess, in the division. So right now you have Washington and Pittsburgh, both tied with 73 points. Washington's in first place. They have a game in hand over Pittsburgh. Boston has 2 games in hand over Pittsburgh, and they have 69 points. So 2 more wins for Boston. They can have 73 points in 54 games to be right on pace with Pittsburgh there. Boston still has a very, very reasonable shot at first place in the East Division. And then you have New York Islanders, who have 53 games played and 68 points. So first place, second place, third place, fourth place in this division, they're all up for grabs. It all depends on how well the teams do. You have all 4 teams, Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Islanders, playing their next games against non-playoff teams. The Islanders play the Devils, Boston plays the Rangers, Pittsburgh plays Buffalo, Washington plays Philly.
Yeah, and you also have to take into account that in the next, so you're looking at Washington has 3 games. We play Washington one more time, I believe.
That's a big game.
We also play the Islanders one more time. And in my opinion, I feel like the Islanders are going to be the 4th seed. And then the only shakeup I see happening is maybe Pittsburgh and us swap. But like, I feel like this division is pretty much set.
The one thing that I do notice here with the East Division that is absolutely mind-blowing, home ice advantage in this division is going to be absolutely crucial because you look at these records, the New York Islanders are 23-3 at home. 20 wins, 3 losses, 3 OTL, and then they're 11-13-3 on the road.
Yeah,
so
night and day.
Yeah. So the Islanders are going to be looking for that home ice advantage because they have such a much better home record than they do away. Another team is Pittsburgh, who is 20 wins, 4 losses, and 2 OTL at home. And then they're 15, 12, and 1 on the road. So Pittsburgh is another team that's going to be looking for that home ice advantage. Boston and Washington are kind of split. They have almost twice as many wins on the road as they do losses. So for Pittsburgh and the Islanders specifically, they're going to be looking for that home ice advantage because their home records are so much better.
Absolutely. But I kind of feel bad for the Rangers though, because just last week they were still in the run-in to maybe steal that 4th seed, and then they just completely shit the bed and lost 4 games in a row. So now
and I mean, honestly, I don't think that whole thing with Washington really helped their case.
No,
their head. The Rangers' head, I don't care what you say, the Rangers' head was not in the game yesterday. They were just focused on going after Tom Wilson, fighting. They weren't focused on scoring goals or anything like that.
And people say oh, they lost the majority of the fights and they lost the game, but I feel like at least they showed up and they stood up for themselves. I feel like that's better than just
sitting down and rolling over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And then you're looking at the Scotia North Division. We have 3 teams that have already clinched. Right now, it's looking as though Toronto is going to win the division. They're 33-13-6 with 72 points. But the Oilers are second place. They have 1 game in hand, and they're 6 points back of Toronto. Oilers, of course, play tonight against Vancouver. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they're 32-17-2. And, who knows? All it takes is for Toronto to lose 2 games, Oilers to win 2 games, and then they're tied in the standings. So the first place is still up for grabs in the North Division. Winnipeg beat Calgary 4-0 last night. They clinched with that win. So they'll be the 3rd team in the North Division. Looking very, very, very more and more likely that Montreal will be the 4th seed.
Yeah.
Calgary is, I believe they're officially out of the playoffs with that loss last night. Vancouver needs to win every single game from here on out to have a shot at the playoffs. They have 41 points with 9 games left. If they win every single game, they bring up to 59 points. Montreal has 57 points in their 4th place.
Vancouver has been such a disappointment to me this year.
They have. They have for sure. They're on a 6-game losing streak right now. Montreal would have to lose every single game the rest of the way, and Vancouver would have to go on a 9-game winning streak in order for them to make the playoffs. So Oilers are going to beat them tonight. So count that out. So Montreal is likely.
Bet your money on it.
Yeah, so Montreal is likely going to be the 4th seed. So you're going to see Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal in the playoffs for the North Division. Again, seeding is still to be determined. But if Winnipeg loses their next game against Ottawa, Edmonton clinches home ice. Or if Edmonton wins tonight, they clinch home ice.
What about? I feel like there's still a toss-up that Montreal could take that 3 seed, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Winnipeg went on a 7-game losing streak. Montreal is 2 points back of Winnipeg. They both have played 52 games. So yeah, Montreal could still take that 3 seed. Honestly, I'm hoping that Winnipeg gets their act together for the rest of the season and keeps that 3 seed, because the Oilers are 7-2 out of the 9 games they played against Winnipeg, and they are under 500 against Montreal this season. So I think the best possible first-round matchup for the Oilers would be the Winnipeg Jets, considering that they've won 7 out of 9 games against them. Plus, I want to see that Toronto-Montreal first-round series.
Yeah. That is one of the benefits of they had to realign the divisions, and this season has been unlike any other. But that's one of the benefits is this playoffs. The first 2 rounds are going to be great.
Yeah.
Because I was almost pissed off that the Rangers didn't make the playoffs, because imagine if the Caps in the playoffs had a playoff series this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right. You think it was bad now, wait till the playoffs for sure. But that being said, though, Calgary, Calgary was such a bittersweet team for me this season. Like, I wanted them to make the playoffs so bad just so that we can whoop them in the Battle of Alberta in the playoffs. And a Battle of Alberta playoffs would be like literally any Oilers fan's dream. It's a chance to just cream the hell out of Turtle Boy and the Flames and get that over with. But at the same time, I love seeing them out of the playoffs too. I hate the Flames. It's in my blood as an Oilers fan, so I love seeing them out of the playoffs. Ottawa has, they've won 4 of the last 5 games.
Yeah, I give them a couple years. Give them
Mm-hmm.
a couple years, and they'll be in the playoffs, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they started off 2-12-1 in the season, and now they're 21, 27-5, which means that since that 2-12-1 start, they've went 19, 16-3.
That's not terrible for the
Not
position.
terrible.
That's not terrible for the position they're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, they had a slow start, right? But
yeah,
I mean, they
Edmonton
won.
also had a slow start too.
Yeah, Edmonton was started off 3-6, 3 wins, 6 losses. Since then, though, since that 3-6 start, they are 29-11-2.
And you guys have the best power play in the league, and your goals for and goals against per game are both in the top 10 of the league. Like,
and one thing about the Oilers that really surprised me this year is their road record is very good. The Oilers road record is better than their home record. They're 15-10 at home, and they're 17-7-2 on the road.
That's good, because if you have to go into Toronto and play them with them having home ice advantage, that's good to have in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the only thing that's good about having no fans is that we don't have to go into Toronto in a playoff series with a packed Scotiabank Arena with Leafs fans, because that place would be nuts in the playoffs. It would be loud, and especially with the Leafs being as good as they are this year, going into a Scotiabank Arena full of fans cheering on the Leafs is going to be tough to win in any environment for sure. But I mean, Boston did it the past 3 first rounds in a row.
Yeah, they did, but I will say this is the first year that Toronto, when you look at their roster, you can say, oh, they have 2 or 3 guys that are actually like gritty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, Toronto, give Kyle Dubas credit. Toronto went out at the trade deadline. They picked up guys like Nick Foligno. They picked up a couple more depth players that can really, really help their team go far, and especially with no salary cap in the playoffs. I mean, the hardest decision I think that the Leafs have to make is whether they want to ride out Jack Campbell in the playoffs or if they want to give Freddie Anderson a shot. But I think right now, if you're the Leafs, your best shot is to ride out Jack Campbell. He's the hot goalie. Freddie Anderson's been out too long. He's rusty. He has a history of blowing, of not being good in the playoffs for sure. Those 2 first-round playoffs series against Boston, he was like an under .900 save percentage.
Yeah, you just don't pull out the hot goalie. If you have a goalie that's stopping everything and winning you games, you do not pull him out. And just look at like that 3rd or 4th line that they have, where it's Simmons, Thornton, and Spezza. Come playoffs, do not underestimate that line because of the amount of experience and grit on that line.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, another thing too, they have David Riddick. They got David Riddick at the trade deadline, so now you got to make the decision. Come the off season, do you think Jack Campbell has what it takes to be a starting goaltender in the NHL? Because they're going to have 3 goaltenders. Jack Campbell's a free agent this year, and he is going to want to be paid considering how well he played this year. So you're not going to be able to afford an already tight Leafs team. You're going to have to be probably selling a lot more than buying on the off season. So between Freddie Anderson, David Riddick, and Jack Campbell, which 2 do you want to roll with?
I'd honestly just roll with Campbell and stick Anderson on the back as a backup.
And get rid of Riddick?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of the opposite. I would.
Would you get rid of Anderson and put Riddick on the back end?
That's what I was gonna say. I think Campbell had a legit shot. I mean, Campbell could be like a 2017 Cam Talbot, where he had 1 good year, rides his team to the second year playoffs, and then shits the bed the next couple of years, right? Mind you,
Yeah.
Cam Talbot has had a very, very good bounce back year this year at Minnesota. But you don't want to see, if you're the Leafs fans, you don't want to take a chance on Jack Campbell, get rid of Freddie Anderson, and then come next year you're stuck with Campbell and Riddick, who are posting 900 save percentages,
Yeah.
because the Leafs for so many years have had goaltending issues, and especially now when you have 3 NHL caliber goaltenders, you can only really keep 2. You don't want to make the wrong decision, get rid of the wrong goaltender, and then you're back to square one in the goaltending department, right?
Is Anderson's contract up at the end of this season, or are you saying trade him because you can't just let him walk?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a free agent. I think that's why they're going with Campbell and Riddick. I
I
think I
feel like
remember seeing somewhere that he was a free agent this year, but I could be wrong.
that would just be like I don't think he's that bad of a goalie, and I
Hmm.
feel like that would be a big loss just to let walk and not get anything in return.
The only thing with Freddie Anderson is he's a regular season goalie.
Yeah.
He is lights out for most of the regular season. Playoffs, he has a reputation for blowing it in the playoffs, and that's a big. Freddie Anderson is a big reason why the Leafs haven't made it past the first round since 2004. Right, like he especially in Game Sevens. Freddie Anderson is 0-8 in Game Sevens in his career.
Yeah. And
You know
how
what I
many
mean?
of those are against the Bruins? Like 3 or
Yeah,
4?
yeah, exactly. So so yeah, that's the big decision that the Leafs are going to have to make this offseason. And then you skip to the Discover Central Division. Carolina Hurricanes are first in the NHL right now in points. They have
They're
been
on
they have
fire.
been on fire, man. Like 36, 10, and 7. They have a 23-4 home record and a 16, 7, and 3 road record. Martin says, "Yep, Anderson's a free agent after this season. Don't see Toronto wanting to give him a lot." Yeah. Okay, so that's what I figured. I figured Anderson was a free agent, so I can see them letting him walk, riding with Riddick and Campbell next season, 100%.
So Carolina on a 5-game winning streak right now too.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
honestly think that they're gonna win the President's Trophy.
Oh, 100%. Like, I
Like
mean, the only teams that are really in contention to take that from them is, Florida is out because they only got 2 games
Vegas,
left. Tampa could,
Vegas
but
and Tampa.
yeah, Vegas, Tampa, Colorado could, even if Colorado can, if Carolina loses their next 3 and Colorado wins out. Um, who else? Washington is out of the running. Pittsburgh is out of the running.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Toronto can't catch them. So
So
yeah, it
like
would be Tampa and Vegas.
look at that home record though, 23-4.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if they do win the President's Trophy, they're gonna have home ice for the entire playoffs.
yeah.
Imagine Carolina getting the cup back again for the first time since 2006.
I'd be okay. I'd be strangely okay with Carolina winning the cup. They have such a good depth team.
Yeah.
Like, Don Waddell, the general manager, did such a good job in the offseason with this team and at the trade deadline. Rod Brindamore is an amazing coach. I will say that to the day I die. Rod Brindamore is probably one of the best coaches in the NHL right now.
Yeah. He will probably be a Jack Adams Award like nominee every
Yeah,
single year coach
yeah,
because he came into Carolina and took them from the bottom of the league and has brought them now back to on the verge of winning the President's Trophy.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Tampa is Tampa. They're 36, 14, and 3, tied for the most wins in the league with Carolina. But Tampa is 4 points back of Carolina with the same amount of games played. So honestly, I can see Carolina winning the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
They're a good enough team. They're gonna most likely beat Chicago and in their next game, and then they'll be over 80 points. 100%, I can see Carolina winning the President's Trophy for sure. And Florida Panthers, what about them? They have had a hell of a year.
Yeah, absolute hell of a season. I'm not even that surprised, honestly, because look at their coach and look at the players that they have on that team right now. Florida has a solid team,
Yeah.
and it's looking like it's going to be a Tampa Florida first round series, which is going to be a battle.
Yeah, for sure. The Battle of Florida, absolutely. And do you think Nashville is in the 4th spot right now? They're 4 points ahead of Dallas. Chicago, Columbus, and Detroit are out of the running. So it's either Nashville or Dallas. Nashville is 4 points ahead of Dallas. Dallas has 1 game in hand. So Dallas is also on a 6-game losing streak, and Nashville has been pretty hot as of late. So do you think Nashville keeps that 4th seed, or do you think Dallas takes it from them? Because either way, it's going to be a very, very difficult first-round series for whoever gets that 4th spot facing Carolina.
Honestly, whoever gets that 4th seed is either going to get swept or get beat in 5 games, so I don't think it really matters. But
Yeah.
I think Nashville is going to hold that 4th seed. I do believe that Nashville and Dallas play one more game against each other.
Yeah.
Which that
That
game
could be the deciding game.
Yeah, that is the deciding game right there.
But can you imagine if you have a repeat of like the 2019 first round playoff series where Columbus sweeps the President's Trophy? You could have it this time. Nashville sweeps the President's Trophy winners first round. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But wouldn't that be something?
Well, hey, go back to 2017. Nashville was the 8th seed in the West, and Chicago was the 1 seed in the West, and they swept them in 4 games.
2012, LA barely snuck into playoffs, 8th seed. The entire playoffs, won the Stanley Cup.
They won the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything can happen in playoffs, but, I mean, you're looking at Carolina, Tampa, Florida. They are obviously, like, very, very clearly the top 3 teams in that division.
Yeah.
Florida, they got Joel Quenneville, 3-time Stanley Cup winning head coach. I'm not surprised, really, but, I mean, the biggest shocks for me this entire season is Florida and Minnesota. Minnesota has exceeded everyone's expectations, I think, especially considering the division they're in.
Where did Minnesota come from? Like,
yeah.
I figured, maybe they'll sneak in as the 4th seed. Like, they'll get that one extra overtime winner or whatever that'll get them in, you know?
But, like, right now, Minnesota is 15 points ahead of 4th seed St. Louis. Did you –
No.
If you would have told me at this point in the season, at the start of the season, that Minnesota would be 15 points ahead of St. Louis, I'd say you're crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go either Vegas, Colorado for 1-2. You can swap those, and then St. Louis, and then it'd either be Minnesota or Arizona for the 4th seed.
4th seed.
Not Minnesota miles ahead of St. Louis, already playoff spot clinched like that. No, would not expect that at all. They're like they're 7-1-2 in their last 10 games too.
Yeah,
they're not even slowing down.
Yeah, and right now the worst team in the league, other than Buffalo, is the Anaheim Ducks.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I saw that coming. Anaheim either has way too old of players or a very, very young team. They're definitely in a rebuilding stage. But I personally love to see it because I'm still salty about the 2017 playoffs with Ryan Kessler holding Cam Talbot's pad. But yeah, I love to see the Ducks at the bottom there. All 3 California teams are at the bottom.
All 3 California teams are god awful right now.
Which, I mean, that's so surprising to me because for so many years, those 3 California teams were like top of the Pacific Division.
Yeah,
like it was always LA, San Jose, Anaheim. Maybe not LA. LA was kind of a hit and miss, but San Jose and Anaheim for sure.
Well, LA was. I feel like LA was like a couple years earlier, like 2010 to 2015, and then they fell off. But like even up to 2017, like you said, San Jose and Anaheim were right there. The Sharks made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2016, and then you sign Erik Karlsson and think they're going to be a good team again. Nope, they just still suck ass.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And I mean, Anaheim's got the worst home record in the league, 6-18-4. Buffalo, their home record is even better than that. Buffalo's actually kind of got themselves together since that god awful start. They've. Let me just check here. They're 7-6-1 in their last 14.
I also feel like since the trade deadline, like a spark was lit.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been playing with an edge since that deadline.
And after that 18-game losing streak they went on, they beat Philadelphia or whichever team it was, and then they just started playing way better. I think they just need to get out of that funk. That 18-game losing streak killed them.
Absolutely. Like, I can't even imagine losing 18 games in a row. That's
in
over
the National Hockey League too.
like, what is that? A month and a half? You don't
Mm-hmm.
win one game, and you're
Mm-hmm.
playing every other night.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
holy shit!
And Buffalo's got a minus 56 goal diff.
Oh my god,
That is, I believe, the worst in the league.
it has to be.
Detroit's also minus 56.
Oh my god, like you're just getting torched.
Yeah,
What's
100%.
insane
Anaheim
is
is minus 51.
what's insane is on the opposite end, Vegas plus 58, Carolina plus 51, Colorado plus 51.
Yeah.
Like those are some insane goal differentials right there. That's a difference of 100 right there between the
Yeah.
top and bottom of the league.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. So that is the analysis, I guess, of where each division is going. Um, Probably most likely seeing a good playoff picture. Like it's most likely going to be Montreal in the fourth seed in the North Division. All four teams in the East Division have clinched. Nashville will likely take the fourth seed in the Central, and St. Louis likely fourth in the West. So your
But
16 playoff teams are almost basically settled.
I don't see St. Louis doing anything in the playoffs. Like
Yeah,
if you're gonna have to play Vegas in the first round, you're not near St.
yeah.
Louis. You're not gonna beat them. No
But you
way.
know what? That Colorado, like whether Minnesota plays Colorado or Vegas first round, that could be one hell of a series.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you
And
don't. Minnesota is like Montreal to me this year. They're just a wild card. You have no idea
mhm,
what you're gonna get.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, like even you look in the East Division, like no matter how that East Division finishes, both the 1 versus 4 series and the 2 versus 3 series are going to be insane because
Yeah.
right now 5 points separate first from fourth in that division, and the most amount of losses in that division right now in the top four is 16 from Pittsburgh and New York Islanders. Boston and Washington both have 14 losses.
That's
So I
unreal.
mean, you look at it, that East Division, like Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston Islanders are running away with it. That's going to be a crazy division to watch in the playoffs. And then the Central Division, you've got Carolina, Tampa, Florida running away with that one. And Tampa, Florida is going to be a great series too. So I mean, there's going to be the potential for some amazing first round series, and then you had Toronto, Montreal first round, Edmonton, Winnipeg first round. Like it's going to be you're going to have a lot of great first round series, a lot of great must watch hockey for sure.
I would love to see Florida just fucking send Tampa home in the first round.
I was just going to say that.
Oh my god, that would be great.
That I
Like,
would love that. Yeah, that would be great for sure. We're going to talk about a little bit more stuff here. Do you think Connor McDavid hits 100 points this season?
yes, absolutely.
You think he does?
He's
He's got
he's got 5 games left and he's got 7 points to go. He needs a point per game, and then in 2 of those games he needs to get 2 points. And he's
and he plays
averaging,
Vancouver twice.
yeah.
No, 3 more times.
So all right, so he's probably gonna get like 2 goals and an assist in both of those games, and then
Yeah.
he's 1 point away from 100. He easily is gonna hit 100. But
And I mean, like, I see so many Oilers fans in Oilers pages saying, you already clinched the playoffs, rest them. You don't want to risk them getting injured. I agree to a point, but there's so many people, myself included, that are just wanting to see McDavid hit 156.
I feel like he's in a hot streak right now, and you don't want to put him like in the press box for a game just to rest him. Like,
Yeah.
because say you healthy scratch him to rest him, and then come playoffs, he's like just not the same player, not in the same zone. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't see the Oilers resting anyone until they've clinched that home ice because Dave Tippett in the last game against Vancouver where they won 4-1, in his post-game press conferences, he was asked if he was happy that his team how well his team played. He said yes. He was asked if he was going to rest any players, and he said no one's getting rested till we clinch home ice. That's the goal right now. And then once we clinch home ice, we want to clinch first in the division. So I don't think Dave Tippett's going to be in the like really in his right mind to bench anyone, because as long as you're still in the running for first in the division, that gives you home ice advantage at least for the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And then
it's
who
baby
knows?
steps. Then you clinch playoffs. You got to clinch home ice. And then you got to clinch first.
And then who knows, because it reseeds after the first 2 rounds to just how the
Yeah.
regular season standings were. So if you were to get the home ice, who knows where you would sit among the other 4 teams remaining? Like,
But the only thing about that is, like, out of if the Oilers were to clinch first place in the North Division, they would have likely the lowest number of points out of all the divisions because they're not going to catch Vegas with 76 points. Carolina, absolutely not. Washington has 73. So, I mean, and Toronto right now has 72 points versus the top of the division. So, if the Oilers were to, like, the most points the Oilers can finish right now with is 76. So, that puts them out of the running for Carolina, out of the running for Vegas. I doubt they will finish higher than the East Division. So, if that being said, you're looking at you have the lowest number of points out of the other teams in the divisions. I mean, it's a risk, but I mean,
yeah,
you want to go for first in the division for sure, and
yeah,
then at least solidify home ice for the first 2 rounds.
yeah, and then you'd just be hoping for a lot of upsets, which
Yeah.
we have seen in the past. It would just have to be one of those seasons where there's a ton of upsets, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, but the Oilers are going to need some help too because they would have to win a very, very good chunk of their remaining games, and then they have to have Toronto lose at least 2 of their last 4 games. And Toronto plays Montreal twice, I believe, and then Winnipeg.
So they probably won't lose 2 of those games. I would be surprised if they did.
Oh, sorry, Toronto plays Montreal twice, and then Ottawa once, and Winnipeg once.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna lose 2 of those games.
Yeah, I mean, if I think they beat. Well, the Leafs have struggled against Ottawa this season. Ottawa has beaten the Leafs 5 times this season.
Really?
Yeah, so I
Jesus
mean,
Christ.
if Toronto's going to lose any game, I would say Ottawa probably for sure, and then maybe a Montreal or a Winnipeg game. So it is possible. Like right now, I know Montreal can't catch Edmonton, so tonight the Leafs play Montreal, and I'm cheering for Montreal in that game for sure. So now it's just a matter of Calgary's out. Don't gotta cheer against them anymore. I can just cheer against Toronto now.
So, question on an individual award basis. Do you think McDavid wins the Hart?
Absolutely. And you
Yeah.
know what? Austin Matthews is most likely going to win the Rocket.
Yeah.
That'll be the first individual award ever won by a Leafs player.
Which is absolutely insane.
That is
So,
insane, for sure.
so I'm also going out on a limb and saying I would say that McDavid is going to win the Lindsay easier than the Hart, especially if he hits 100 points, because those 2 awards get mixed up a lot.
But
Because
I mean, if McDavid hits 100 points, you got to say like he wins the Hart. Like that's obviously if you had 156 points, you're a pretty valuable player on your team.
yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? So I mean, I do think the Hart's going to come down to like McDavid, Matthews, and like Nathan McKinnon or Patrick Kane or someone.
But the thing, Kane's had a hell of a season, but like, can you really give a guy the Hart when his team didn't even make the playoffs?
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's going to be like maybe Draisaitl's in contention for the Hart too with 75 points,
I would
but
say McDavid, McKinnon,
McKinnon and Matthews,
or
yeah,
yeah, Matthews.
yeah, yeah. That's what I would say
When
too. And then you're looking at Vezina too. Like look at the goalie stats. Vasilevsky 31 wins,
it's in
um,
fucking
5 shutouts. Vasilevsky has a 2.10 goals against average, and then you have Philip Grubauer 2.03 GAA, 6 shutouts, 27 wins. And then you have Marc-Andre Fleury in like third place and like everything. So like
yeah.
right now, I think it's for Vezina, Vasilevsky, Grubauer, Fleury. It has to be.
Yeah, Fleury at this point has to be. He also just bumped into third position all-time wins.
Mm-hmm.
So now only Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh have more wins than him.
Yeah.
And he's got 5 shutouts, 0.926 save percentage, 2.07 goals against average. Like, he's definitely having a hell of a season. It's got to be like Fleury, Vassy, and then Grubauer. Like
Yeah.
Grubauer is a shock to me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then you
Yeah.
look at Varlamov, and he's got 7 shutouts.
Yeah. Varlamov has 7 shutouts. So, like, I mean, it goes, like, yeah, 7 shutouts for Varlamov, but, I mean, he's got 19 wins and a 2.02 goals against. So, I mean, he's in contention, too,
Yeah,
right? And then you have Alex Nedeljkovic for Carolina Hurricanes tearing it up. 1.89 GAA, 0.932 save percentage. Like, 3 shutouts. Like, this is a great young goaltender for the Hurricanes, too.
yeah. But isn't there a thing where you have to play a minimum of 25 games or whatever to
Yeah,
get?
I don't think like he's not going to be nominated for the Vezina,
Yeah.
but I mean like just something to watch though. Like with that 932 save percentage, a 1.89 goals against average, Nedeljkovic has played I think 9 or 10 games. So I mean that's pretty impressive numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And one thing that I really like to see that I haven't seen in a long time. 3 of the top 6 leaders in plus minus are Edmonton Oilers. Draisaitl leads the league in plus minus with plus 32. Darnell Nurse is second with plus 30. And Connor McDavid is sixth with plus 26.
That
I love to see it.
That probably hasn't been seen since like the 80s.
Yeah. Like if the Oilers are going to win a cup, it's this is the year to do it. Especially with the divisions the way they are. All you got to do is basically beat Toronto and it's an easy pass to the conference finals, right?
Yeah. Get past Toronto and you're in the conference finals, and then hope to God you don't play Vegas or Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, I feel like you would have to be hoping that you would be playing the East Division winner.
Can you imagine if like the Oilers make the conference finals, they reseed, end up playing Boston in the conference finals?
No, because we've lost fucking 2 cups to you in the 80s and 1990s. So no, I don't want to play you in the playoffs.
I would love to play Boston in the playoffs, honestly. Taylor Hall's with Boston, it'd be like a reunion
The
almost.
shit talking that would be going on between us that week of the series.
I'd probably block you, not gonna lie. I get so sick of you. But yeah, no, and I mean, like it's going to be an amazing playoffs this year for sure. Like I'm a huge fan of the division realignments. I mean, I do think probably next season, especially with players getting vaccinated, more of the world getting vaccinated for COVID, I do think they maybe go back to the old divisions, especially with now you got Seattle.
Yeah, like
coming
you have
into the league,
Seattle
right? So you can't put Seattle in the North Division.
No,
because the Canadian border's closed. So, for divisional purposes, you'd have to go back to the regular divisions, right? And the Seattle would slot into the Pacific Division. Arizona moves over to Central.
Because the NHL is not gonna not allow Seattle to start. They've already made their final payment. They're in the league.
Seattle can like the expansion draft is this summer. They can officially sign players. They're not going to have Seattle wait any longer.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to go back to the divisions, but if that border doesn't open up, then that's gonna be a hell of a predicament.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm surprised to see what the NHL does for like the conference finals round because either way, you're gonna have at least one Canadian team in the conference finals. So now, what do you do if the border's still closed by then? Do you ship the Canadian team down to the States and have them quarantine?
And not have any home ice games?
Yeah, like I could see maybe if it's Toronto that makes it, maybe going to Buffalo and playing in the Sabres arena, but at the same time, like that, it's not the same, right? Like, I'm surprised to see, or I'm excited to see kind of what the NHL does about that.
They're gonna have to do something because either they're gonna have to allow, like, for special reasons, players to be able to go across the border and back, or they're gonna have to bring the Canadian team to America and they're gonna have to play in a different arena.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure.
Which sucks because imagine if you're the Canadian team that makes it to the conference finals and you have to go to a different team's rank in the States and like you win the cup, like
Yeah.
you're not, and like say you're on home ice, you're not winning the cup like on your normal home ice. It's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm just seeing right now, this is kind of unrelated to what we were talking about, but I'm just seeing right now that the New York Rangers just released a statement that the firing of President John Davidson and General Manager Jeff Gorton was unrelated to the Peros incident.
Yeah, I saw that, and I also saw that um, they said that Davidson and Gorton were trying to stay a little away from the Rangers statement that they made about Peros in the league.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's the timing of it was really, really suspicious to me.
It makes no sense
Yeah,
because to me, Davidson and Gorton were doing a good job with the Rangers. Like they weren't that far out of the playoffs, and they were definitely a step forward this year. So I don't see
yeah.
why he would get fired, and especially after that game. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely related, and it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely because I could see Davidson and Gorton being like, "No, do not release that statement to the league," and they just said "fuck it" and did it.
Yeah,
And
and like going back to like at the start of the show, we were talking about like the Wilson suspension and everything too, and like how Crosby kind of got away with, like, Crosby got nothing for body slamming Travis Konechny. Another thing that I meant to bring up but I forgot was that same game, Shane Gostisbehere
yeah,
boarded Pittsburgh Penguins defenseman Mark Friedman and got suspended 2 games.
yep,
Like,
and
inconsistency is brutal.
and I'm pretty sure like Gossip is a first offender too.
Yeah.
Like to me, the big deal is if are you a repeat offender? And look at Wilson's like track record.
History. Yeah. How many times?
Like
Wilson got suspended 8 games recently, didn't he? For
yeah,
something
like
he did?
last season,
Yeah.
and he got like suspended in the Stanley Cup Finals against Vegas. I'm pretty sure, and
Yeah.
then he like broke Aston Reese's jaw
Mm-hmm.
in the second round of that year in the playoffs. Like this guy has had a history of just hurting people, and every single time he hurts someone, it's not like a justified hit. It's not like, oh shit, that sucks. Like that's part of the game. It's a contact sport. People are
Yeah,
gonna
it's an
hurt.
accident. Yeah.
Like it's all right. You just drove your elbow into this guy's jaw. No shit, you broke it. Like, and
Yeah.
he's 50 pounds lighter than you and half a foot shorter than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing. Like, you suspend Shane Gostisbehere 2 games, fine, but then like I do think a lot of it has to do with, oh, it was Sidney Crosby. He's untouchable. You can't suspend him. You know what I mean? Which I think.
Yeah,
I mean, as an Oilers fan, if McDavid did something like that, I'd be fully willing to accept suspension.
yeah. But the thing is, to me, if you're gonna fine Wilson just $5,000 for that, including his history, then okay, Crosby shouldn't get suspended then.
Yeah, fine Crosby five
Like,
thousand dollars at least.
or not even that because Crosby doesn't have the history that Wilson does. Like, if a guy
True.
like
Yeah.
if a guy like Wilson is gonna do that and he has the history and he only gets fined $5,000, then you can't say, oh, Crosby did the same thing. He gets the same punishment. No,
Well,
because
and then you can't suspend. Yeah, if Tom Wilson can do what he did, and only get fined $5,000 as a multiple times repeat offender, Shane Gostisbehere, first time offender, getting 2 games for boarding.
is bullshit.
Yeah,
Like just
100%.
complete. Like it's almost to the point where they have a hat and they're just
And they
like
just pick names
and
out
they're
of it.
just
Yeah,
like picking a number out of the hat. Like, all right, 7-game suspension, $5,000 fine, 1-game
yeah,
suspension. Like
yeah, yeah. It's. I
it's a
mean,
joke at this point.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the Department of Player Safety office and just see kind of what goes on in there, because it's the inconsistency is almost embarrassing at this point.
But like, could you imagine Peros like in the room, like watching the replay, being like, "Oh shit, that was bad," but in my playing days, I did something 10 times worse and got away with it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Peros
it's
is
so
sitting there watching it. Oh yeah, that's bad. We'll give him $5,000. That's it.
yeah.
um,
Like, who is he to judge what gets fined and what gets suspended? He was the guy that got like suspended and fined the most. Like,
George Peros is probably the worst possible guy to be the head of the Department of Player Safety. because
Yeah,
you look on YouTube, you go on YouTube and you type in the search bar George Peros, like 20 fights are gonna come up.
yeah, and it's all gonna be like ugly fights too, or
Yeah,
like elbows to the head, like
yeah,
Gordon, like
yeah, yeah. Um, that's just it. But I mean, and then like just to have a guy like that and at the head running the Department of Player Safety is a very very ironic kind of a questionable thing. But then the NHL's like, okay, fine, you're gonna insult one of our guys. Here's $250,000. Pay up.
yeah, which is
So
nuts because look at the difference of amount of money that is.
yeah,
Like one team released a paragraph and they get $250,000 fine. This guy almost kills a player. All
and
right,
gets
five
fined
grand.
$5,000. Yeah, sit in the box for 10 minutes, make $5,000, give it to us.
Yeah, like,
Milan Lucic waived his no movement clause.
yeah.
I
To
don't
go.
blame him. I wouldn't want to play in Calgary either.
No,
But
he's also old as fuck, and I think he wants to go to Seattle.
you think he wants to go to Seattle? I mean, he's from Vancouver. He'll be close
Yeah,
to home.
there's a lot of guys that like I don't know if you've seen it, but like on the internet, there's a lot of rumors that people from that area want to go back to that area and play on that team. Like, oh, she's one of the guys that's rumored. Holtby, I believe, might be
Yeah,
rumored.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like Milan Lucic. I remember in 2011 he won the cup with the Bruins. They played against
Yeah,
Vancouver. After that, Milan Lucic. He's from Vancouver. He said there was no way in hell he would ever play in Vancouver based on all the shit that went on in that series.
yeah, no,
And
because
especially with like Vancouver rioting after that game, he's like, "This is not my hometown."
yeah, and you have to realize like that what they did to Horton too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that was another brutal incident. So I would like, and Lucic definitely holds grudges and does not like move on. You know.
yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, I do think if he wages no movement clause, it's an attempt for him to go to Seattle for sure. I don't think I can't see the Flames protecting him for the expansion draft. And Seattle, I
No,
mean, Seattle's gonna have a good team. They're gonna need some tough physical guys. Lucic, he's slow, and he's
but
not
he's a
what he used to be. But he's, I mean, a good depth
third.
player
He's a
and
good
tough.
third, fourth liner,
Yeah, for sure.
like locker room leader. And yeah, you're right. Calgary is not going to want to protect them because they're going to want to protect their younger guys. Why would you protect an older guy like Lucic?
Especially when you have like Kachuk, Goudreau, Monahan.
Yeah,
They're probably going to protect Alex Mangiapane. He's been pretty good this year. They're definitely going to protect Markstrom.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, at this point, it's
How many more players can you protect? You know.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, the Seattle Kraken, Ron Francis is a general manager,
Mm-hmm.
and Ron Francis, he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Dave Tippett, before he got hired by the Oilers, Dave Tippett was part of the team that, or part of the committee that got everything set up in Seattle, alongside Ron Francis.
Seattle's gonna have like a hell of a team, and I would not be
Mm-hmm.
surprised if they make it to at least the conference finals that first year.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas made it to the Cup final their
They're
first year.
they're
Seattle's going
gonna
to be
be a
handed,
repeat of Vegas. I feel
yeah,
like it's gonna be the
Seattle's going to
same
be
thing as
handed a
Vegas.
Cup winning team their first year.
And say like everything with COVID goes great. All right, people are back in the stands. They're gonna be going nuts because they aren't used to being able to go to arenas again. That Seattle rank is gonna be unreal. Just look at the Seahawks like football stadium. It's
Mm-hmm.
the same fan group. Like that rank is gonna be loud as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I like that may be holding Seattle back from signing or picking up Lucic is that Lucic still has 2 years left on his contract, getting $5.25 million a year. Is Ron Francis going to want to pick up a contract paying a guy like Milan Lucic, a third or fourth liner at best, $5 million?
I mean, isn't there like a option where they can pick up a player, but like be like you have to give us a draft pick or something?
I
Like,
have
isn't
no
there a
idea.
trade option?
I have no idea. There could be.
Because I
There very
remember
well
when
could be.
Vegas was doing the expansion draft, they would trade in with teams like draft picks to acquire guys that those teams didn't want.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe Calgary sends Seattle draft picks and say, "Oh, take Lucic," and that takes the hit for the salary cap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting how it all plays up. We're going to have another show in the future,
Yeah.
probably once all the teams have clinched playoff orders have been ranked, and once we know more about kind of the expansion draft and who's all available to take. But I think for right now, Tim's got some steaks to grill.
Yep.
I've got a newborn baby to take care of. I can hear crying,
Change the
so.
diaper.
Change the diaper, yeah. So I think we're gonna sign off today, and we'll see you guys probably next week. But I guess we'll let you know.
All right. See you guys
Sounds
next
good.
week.